Annette King.
Mr Speaker, can I first of all wish members who are in the House a Happy New Year and also a Happy Chinese New Year, which we are celebrating in this Parliament this very evening. Ni hao. Mr Speaker, most of us enjoyed our Christmas break with our family. We had fun, we had food, and some of us looks like the emphasis has been on food. But with the weather that we've had, with our victories in sport, and I have to say to the Prime Minister, none of them he was responsible for. It was all our great team's work. But with the weather, the sport, the beaches, the activities, the grandchildren, the holidays, some of us have come back with recharged batteries, Mr Speaker. We've come back energised and excited about the year ahead. And what I found is when you spend time with your family, it often brings out some wonderful memories of days gone by. And it certainly did that for me over this Christmas period when I was around my family. It brought back memories of my own upbringing. And I have to say, Mr Speaker, I was lucky enough, as I believe you were, Mr Speaker, to actually live what we call the Kiwi dream. We actually got to live the New Zealand Kiwi dream. You see, my parents, they built their first home with a state advance loan, and they were able to capitalise their family benefit to put a deposit down on that house. And my old dad said to me, you need to have a freehold home when you retire, then you will be safe. And Mr Speaker, I've had the chance to do that. I do own my own home. I have to say not all our children do. Mr Speaker, I got that chance because my income related better to the cost of the house I was going to buy, which is not the case today. And my old dad, he was in the same job for 40 years. Then he retired. He never had to change his job. His wages supported a wife and 3 daughters. I got paid to train for my first job at the dental school. I got my first job from that training. I never paid for it, they paid me. I got a free tertiary education from the Waikato University. I got the chance to get the jobs that I wanted. I had the freedom of the outdoors, of family holidays, of clean rivers, of close family and good food. I had my grandparents who lived next door to us for most of my young life. And we had neighbours who looked out for us. The Kiwi dream for many of us was a reality. That was our life. It was what made New Zealand unique in the world. The Kiwi dream was central to who we are as New Zealanders. We had the highest home ownership in the world in this country. That's what we aspired to. Around 80% of New Zealanders owned their own home by the time they retired. We had job security. We had jobs to go to. You could go from one job to another. You could train and retrain for a job. We had free education and we had affordable health. We led the world in living the Kiwi dream. But what saddens me, Mr Speaker, is to see that that dream is slipping away for thousands of New Zealanders. It's like the government is saying it's not possible to have that dream anymore. It's not important. It's a bygone era. It's not needed. Well, I have to say, Mr Speaker, I do not accept that. I will not accept that. I will not roll over and give up on New Zealand being the best place to live in the world, to love and to work. But what worries me is I believe we've become a meaner country. We have become a more selfish country. We're a country that's more about me, than about us. And our Kiwi values, I believe, are being changed at this very moment. It seems to me that what we celebrate now and what we worship as success is money. That we see spoilt rich kids who have no concept of how thousands of their peers lived just down the road. And more people are being shut out of the Kiwi dream. And this government is closing that door. They are creating a new reality for New Zealanders. You see, our economy is increasingly weighted in favour of those who already are doing well. And I believe it started in 2009 at the height of the global financial crisis. It was tough for the world. New Zealand was a little luckier because the previous Labor government had left that government with no government debt, had paid down debt and had the lowest unemployment rate in the OECD, and that's on record if the members want to go and look at it. But what did the national government do in 2009? They gave tax cuts to the wealthiest percentage of the population in New Zealand. In the middle of a global financial crisis, their response was to give a tax cut. Billions and billions of dollars have been given to those who didn't need it. And those who had the least were told to suck it up because they needed to tighten their belts. They needed to ensure that we got out of the global financial crisis, and the burden was placed on those that had the least. And now we are told that there is going to be tax cuts again for the very same people. Surprise, surprise, Mr. Speaker, they are promised for next year. And some of us know that next year is election year. So in election year, when there might be some money that could be spent on far better things, a few at the top are going to receive a tax cut. Not for our kids, not for those older New Zealanders who are looking to have the health services they need, not free education after they leave school. No, not for that. We're told by the government that cannot be afforded. Well, Mr. Speaker, it's all about priorities, isn't it? Houses are now unafforded for thousands of Kiwis. If you've got one and you live in Auckland, you probably feel you are a millionaire because your house is now worth $1 million. But it's a house for a house. So if you change your house, you're not going to be much better off unless you shift to Reefton or somewhere like that. If you live in Auckland, you are living in the 5th dearest city in the world for housing. Imagine that in New Zealand. And now we know that houses are the playthings of speculators, those who often live offshore, who come to buy up houses here and to be able to sell them again and put the cash in their pockets and take it away. And we have a government that turns a blind eye to poverty amongst children in New Zealand. And poverty, Mr. Speaker, is a word that must not be spoken. You may call it hardship, hard times, but never say poverty. And we have got health care that is stretched to the breaking point, and anyone, Mr. Speaker, who was at the Select Committee today would have heard how tough it is on an area like Auckland with a bulging population, or on an area like Christchurch, where they are still suffering from the impact of an earthquake, particularly in mental health. You see, Mr. Speaker, we don't believe in that future. We have a different future for New Zealand based on the inherent beliefs of Kiwis. And it's a belief that needs to be rekindled by leadership and by a government that is in touch with New Zealanders and believes in a chance for a decent, secure job, for a warm, affordable home and education for the future. And we will make that happen, Mr. Speaker. And the first part of our announcements came when we announced that we want to ensure our children and our grandchildren have the opportunity to have post-secondary school education, the first 3 years of that education free. The same as I had, the same as Mr. Joyce had, that Mr. Key had, that Dr. Coleman had. We took it, but that government doesn't want to give it back to our children. If we want a future for them, education has to be the future. As our job market change, as we know that around 47%, is it 47%? No, I won't go there, Mr. Speaker, I can't find it in a hurry. We know that we've got a changing job market that we're going to have many people out of jobs in the next 20 years. They need to be retrained into the new jobs that are coming. So that is not our future. Our future is to rebuild that Kiwi dream, and we intend to do it in government.